Thank you guys all for watching our shorts program too. We are here with all of the amazing filmmakers from the films you guys just saw. So let's go around and introduce them. We have Nikki Dodd with the Rescue Center. We have Marcel with Every Drop Counts. We have Taylor Hensel and Brittany Hensel with The River Tells It, and Aaron Peterson with 24 Leeches. So thank you guys all so much for joining me today in this Q&A. Nikki, I'll start with you. Your film was the first one in the program. I really loved the way that not only are you talking about animal welfare and wildlife trafficking, but you're also telling kind of the story of one character's evolution, or one man's evolution, and how he found like meaning through his work. And I was wondering what made you choose to add that in addition to the broader story?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in my work, I'm always interested in the relationship between people and the environment, between people and animals, and in getting deeper into just the interconnectedness of this global planet. And so for me, I wanted to tell the story of some of these animals that have been rescued from the illegal wildlife trade and ended up at this rescue center. But I also really wanted to highlight what the rescue center means for some of the workers, for the local people that are employed there and are able to support their families by doing this. And, the interesting part is that for some of the animal keepers there, if they weren't employed at this rescue center, they might also be forced to turn to trafficking and poaching just as a means to, make ends meet.
Yeah, we've been, like, as I'm doing all these Q&As with filmmakers, the topic of interconnectedness has come up time and time again. So it's nice to see that in your film too. And as a woman in New York City, how did you get involved in this project?
I think as a 10-year-old, I wanted to work at a zoo. I wanted to be a zookeeper. And so it was kind of a dream that I had for a while and decided, why not volunteer at a wildlife rescue center? And Chickenanga Wildlife Rescue Center is one of the, if not the biggest rescue center in Indonesia. And so I connected with them, was able to go there, volunteer at the same time, bring my equipment, and make a short documentary at the same time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. I thought it was really cool. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is great. So I'm super happy to have it and have you joining us today. Marcel, I was wondering, you made the film Every Drop Counts. If you could talk about maybe so our fest normally takes place in Green Lake, Wisconsin. Obviously we're virtual this year, but I was hoping you could talk about what Green Lake means to you, or what, as a Midwestern person, like what lake life and that water connection means to you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I grew up for the first 18 years of my life living in Ripon, which is about like a 15-minute drive from Green Lake. So I think just being that close proximity is something that really obviously makes me feel attached to Green Lake. But it wasn't until I started working for the Green Lake Association, when I started doing more projects for them, sort of ecology and biology-based projects, where I started to kind of just feel a much more intimate relationship with the lake, and doing stuff like water testing and invasive species control. It shed a lot of light on how this sort of environment, which for much of my life I felt was like this pristine, really nice place that I would travel to every summer, just like on the weekends, was not quite doing as well as I had been assuming it was. Yeah, and I don't think that is necessarily a unique narrative. And I think that right now, especially, a lot of people are realizing these sorts of things and have been realizing them for years. Yeah. So that's kind of, my connection to
Yeah.
the lake.
It's weird. It's like being in Green Lake, you like look at that lake and it's so beautiful. And then as I've like spent more time there, learned more and more about like what your film shows, like there's other layers to it. It's not just like this pristine body of water. There's a lot going on there. Have you found it to be like in your filmmaking career, have you been leaning more towards films now that have like an impact? Or is that like the direction you would like to continue going in?
Yeah, I'm definitely still a young filmmaker. And I think this sort of subject matter where it's conservation videography, but with like a really with an emphasis on narrative building, it's really interesting to me. And I think as I've been the biggest fan of like Christina Mittermeier and Paul Nicklin for the longest time, and it's that sort of stuff where you're giving people an intimate look at things, but there's this whole social context in which this natural world that we all love is existing within. So I'd hope that my work continues to make impacts, and that's definitely what I'm interested in at the moment.
Yeah, it's been super amazing to get to bring like people like you together who are just all making films that are not only beautiful and have great stories, but really have an impact. And I think that's really special. So it's really cool. So thank you for going on that path. That's important. Taylor and Brittany, I wanted to talk to you guys about obviously you're telling a Native story, and I was wondering if you could touch on what it means to you guys to be Native women telling Native stories and why that's important to you.
You want to take it? You want to go or me? Well, so Taylor and I are citizens of Cherokee Nation and have been really lucky to have developed pretty awesome relationships with other sovereign tribal nations. And Taylor had been working at the department, or working kind of freelance for the Department of the Interior, and had kind of developed a relationship with the Matchabi Jewish people. I don't know, I mean, a lot of these stories don't get told. So we're working really hard to tell stories of not only our tribal people, but other tribes, to help bring awareness to some of the things that are happening on Native land, especially in an environmental context. A lot of those stories don't make it to the mainstream. So that's been Taylor and our little mission as pretty new filmmakers as well, but it's just a big deal. It's just to continue to spread awareness and to make sure that our stories are being told, because representation does matter, whether it's documentary film or narrative film. So yeah, Taylor, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think what was really important with this project and all of our projects is to really have the power stay with the community that it's coming from. And so for this project in particular, the Gun Lake tribal community totally led the whole process. And we were more so just vessels to help bring this story out. They wrote the script, they had the story, and truly were just the leaders in this, and we were just following. So we're really grateful for them to have invited us into their space and trusted us with this. And that's something that we always keep at the forefront, is just who has the power here and who is this story actually benefiting. So yeah, that's our philosophy.
I love that. And I think that's really important too. I know there's been a lot of discussion lately. Like I watch a lot of like Native panels with other filmmakers, and there's been a lot of talk of like how to handle stories respectfully as a semi-outsider. And it sounds like you guys are doing a really great job with that. What was it that connected you guys to this specific story, since like you're saying it is like a different tribe? How did you guys land there?
You can take that one.
Yeah. I was doing work with the Department of the Interior, and I had a really cool internship with them where they basically allowed me to create my own internship. So my goal was to work with different tribal communities around environment and what's going on. And so I had an opportunity to start working with the Gun Lake tribe around the Enbridge oil spill that impacted their community. And so I had no idea. I truly had no idea. I'm not a scientist. Like I'm not privy to these things. So I really took a ton of time to learn from them what happened, what it meant to their community, how they're recovering, what species are suffering, how did the biodiversity get impacted. And the process of making this film was almost 2 years. So we only filmed for 3 days, but the workup to understand the story and build relationship first before the cameras ever come on was a really long process. So we're thankful to still have good friendship and good relationships with the community there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing that story. And yes, I 100% agree. Representation matters. So I appreciate you guys going out there and making films like this, especially at the beginning of your career. Like, you guys are going to do really amazing things. So I'm grateful to get to speak to you now. Erin, last but not least, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. This film really hit a lot of us really hard on our programming team, and it was one of the first films that we just unanimously agreed that was really beautiful and we wanted to include in our festival. So I just want to thank you for sharing such a vulnerable piece with us all. I think it's a really amazing story that you've shared with us. So I was hoping you could talk to us about the legacy that this film has created and the impact of sharing this story has had on other people.
Yeah, so I think we're all sort of grappling with our digital identities and the true versus false aspects of social media, and in a way, and legacy, right? We're leaving behind all of this legacy, good and bad, online. And with my son, I had the opportunity to sort of create a legacy for him that he wouldn't be able to create on his own. And I struggle with what to do with it. It wasn't quite done, and it certainly didn't mean what it after his passing. It wasn't as simple as it had started out to be. It's a simple story about children and the environment, and but coming up on what would have been his 11th birthday, I was able to finish it and put it out for his birthday. And I didn't really know what would happen. With my peers, as I was developing it, 2 years prior, sharing it with other filmmakers, and getting kind of mixed feedback, honestly, like as a film, saying that I was trying to put too much in, and but kind of stripped all that away, and it just became sort of his legacy, and the world received it really well, and grief is a really lonely process, and by doing this, by sharing this film, I was kind of held up, by a community, others that have lost, people who, maybe are just in the same stage with their children as far as ages, and just sort of saw the best side of the internet, the best side of social media, and it really helped me move past the point. Obviously, still have a long way to go, but it was a turning point in my grief. Let's see, I don't remember the question.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that, honestly, talking to you has been like something that I've been so nervous about and also looking forward to, because your film just like struck me on a completely different level than any other film that we have in the program. And I just imagine that obviously you're going through something really difficult, but that you have been able to use filmmaking and this film as a tool to help you in a completely different way than anyone else in our program. And it sounds like that's really had an impact on you.
It did, you know, I started the Fresh Coast Film Festival in 2016. So I run a festival as well. And I sort of started the festival for those same reasons, sort of seeing that, you know, the way we all connect through film and the way an audience, you know, coming together at a festival, being in the same room, sort of, you know, in front of that glowing screen and doing it together and the positive aspects of film and like communal gathering. And even though, you know, this is a bizarre year, you know, for me, I'm in my third bizarre year. The last 3 years have just been insane. And, but now we're doing everything virtually. All the festivals are virtual. And we're still able, I think, to share that positive experience of sharing stories and some of the most basic human elements. We're just doing it on little pictures on our screens.
Have you been able to share the film with a lot of like classes or youth groups or any targeted audience like that where you can really see the impact with kids?
You know, I haven't. So his birthday was in April, and you know, COVID stuff had already sort of locked everybody down. So it's all been virtual at this point. I have had some teachers say that they used it this spring. They used it in their online courses. They had something they were going to do that week, and they scrapped it and picked this up. You know, it was especially popular in Canada. I live near Canada, up in far northern Michigan, and the film takes place in Canada. And I think just Canadian canoe culture, the Canadians really embraced it. And I don't know, that was special to me. I've always had a warm spot for Canada and Canadian people. So.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. It's really, really special. It's really powerful and important. Just watching that story was it's so heartfelt but inspiring to get kids and families to go outdoors, and it was just adorable to see his enthusiasm for that. And it's something that is really important, that kind of stuff for our festival, for people to make that connection with nature and see the importance of that. So your film really embodied that. Thank you guys all so much for sharing your stories with us, and I really appreciate you guys all taking the time to chat with me. The last thing I wanted to do was just go back around in order. If you guys want to share any info of where people can learn more about you, your film, or if there was an organization or group featured in your film. So Nikki, if you have any.
Yeah, I would love to direct people to the website of the rescue center. It's called Chickamauga Wildlife Rescue Center. They're also on Instagram and Facebook. They've been hit pretty hard by coronavirus, so they definitely need all of the donations that they can get at this time. Yeah, and I feel like with COVID-19 likely originating from an animal, and we're seeing more and more just how much our relationship with wildlife and wild species impacts everyone across the world. It's really important to keep attention there and to do what we can to lift up organizations that are doing work on the ground. And thank you so much for this Q&A and for inviting us all here.
Of course. And on that note, we have a special section in the Festival of All Freeland content titled End Pandemic. So you guys can scroll to that section if you want to learn more about the connection between wildlife trafficking and pandemic that we're in and other pandemics in general. Marcel?
Yeah, first, I think it'd be great to shout out the Green Lake Association. Their website is just thegreenlakeassociation.org. And they're, the whole reason that the film happened. And then you can find my work on my website, marcelhones.com. And Avery, the other director, he has a production company called America Digital Cinema, which also has a website. And then his work can be found at averyross.com.
Awesome. And then we actually have a State of the Lake panel all about the state of Green Lake that you guys can check out live. and some of the people from the Green Lake Association will be on that as well. Taylor and Brittany?
Sure. I just want to say thank you so much, Dawn, for your facilitation, and this is a really exciting opportunity. I think the only website that I have is just to point folks in the direction of the Gun Lake Tribe if you want to learn more about the community and the work they're doing. It's just gunlaketribe-nsn.gov. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And Erin, what you want to share, and if there's a place we can direct any teachers that are watching that want to pick up sharing your film with their students?
Sure, yeah. The best place to find the film is on my Vimeo page. Aaron Peterson Studios. I actually don't know the Vimeo link, but aaronpeterson.studio is our main website. You can click through to Vimeo there. And I would say also, just in the spirit of short film and film festivals, freshcoastfilm.com is another Midwest-based film festival to check out.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dawn. Thanks for the Q&A. Thanks for pulling off the virtual festival.
Yeah, it's something, I'll tell you that. I'll gather all the links from these guys and put them in the description of the Eventive page, so you guys can just go there to click what they were just talking about. So thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate all of your time.